Thank you, Carla. I had to. That video makes me cry. I actually saw that video a couple of weeks ago and learned about this gentleman, Paul Barton, for the first time. I was attending an online Zoom service with Compassion Consortium, and they hold services once a month with animal-related things, and I learned about his work. That's an elephant sanctuary in Thailand called Elephant's World, and it's for elephants who have been used in entertainment and as beasts of burden in logging and things like that. And so Paul Barton is a classical pianist and also an artist, and he works with rescued elephants, and he felt called to play music for these elephants, and they were concerned because it could be dangerous. I mean, these aren't elephants in the wild; these are elephants who have been acclimated to human beings. But it's really interesting, his website and his YouTube videos. He played for. I mean, it's a tremendous project to get the piano there and assembled, and all the different elephants who had different experiences with the music, and so I just felt like that was such a perfect video for letting your life speak, because when we let our life speak, we bring something to the table into the world in a way that it's completely unique to us. And so anyway, that's Paul Barton, and the elephant's name, her name is Aman. She is an 80-year-old elephant who, and if you notice, I don't know if you may know this, I mean, elephants cry. They cry like humans do. So when you see the what looks like tears coming through, they weep as humans do. So, and I like to think that, I don't know so much that the animals, I don't know maybe how they feel about the music, but I think they can feel the intensity of his love, what he wants to give them. And anyway, so thank you for sharing that with me, and I'm so happy to have learned of his work and passed that along. So I wanted to, anything I talk about, I am like not an expert on in any way. It's something that I'm working on in myself. And so I look at this book. I really loved this book by Parker Palmer called Let Your Life Speak. And I interpreted it to mean, life as prayer and prayer as life. And he talks a lot about his personal journey. The book specifically is about finding your true calling, and it's technically about finding vocation, but it's really about his journey. He's a Quaker, and it's a very spiritual book. And I thought it was perfect because this week is also Unity World Day of Prayer, this week on Wednesday and Thursday, which they'll talk about later. And Unity's definition, I grew up in the Methodist Church, and so prayer has always been a part of my life, but it was always, out, up to someone other than me, and I was always asking for something. It was always about like, please, or please, that, there was not so much of an exchange of, a conversation. And then my spirituality changed as I got older and through my journey. But I just to reinforce what we said earlier, what speaks to me about unity defines prayer as a way to connect with God and the divine and align our mind with the infinite. Affirmative prayer, creative thought, holding positive visions for our spirituality, for the world, for others. And so with that in mind, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of mixing these two. I'm going to talk a little about letting our life speak. So I'm going to start with the video that we saw. I'm going to read a little bit about what Paul Barton wrote. So as he writes about when he first arrived at Elephant's World Sanctuary. Again, now he was working as a teacher. He was in Thailand. He's from England originally. He was in Thailand to work as a teacher and as a music teacher. And then he ended up meeting someone from the sanctuary. They agreed to him. He really fell in love with the elephants. He approached them with doing this work with the playing music. And he said, when we arrived, we assembled the piano in an open field. They brought 8 elephants to the piano. I was surrounded by these huge creatures eating barn grass. A blind elephant named Plara stopped eating and listened intently to the music and had a visible reaction. This reaction inspired me to start our Piano for Elephants project. Over the years, we made many friends at Elephant's World. I discovered that baby and young elephants prefer fast music like ragtime or show tunes, while older elephants enjoyed calm classical music. He also became close with a bull elephant named Chai Chena. I'm probably pronouncing this incorrectly. A former logging elephant, initially deemed too dangerous. I played for him with caution. He was free around, all the animals are free to just leave if they don't like it. And you definitely see some of his videos. Some of them are like, yeah, no, not for me. And they walk away. But he talks about this elephant listening gently, showing a softer side of his character. Over time, I spent time with him in the river and hoped he would accept me. I feel so privileged to live with elephants and to get to know them as individuals. I hope that music, a universal language, might rehabilitate or rekindle their spirits. And so I'm going to read a little bit from this book with regards to what he talks about when this fits in perfectly with what was shared too in about being willing to let our idea of what our life is supposed to look like, be willing to allow that to fall away or to shift so that we can hear what our life wants to be. So he first writes, before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody. He says, he talks about he's at a turning point in his life. I ran across the old Quaker saying, let your life speak. I found those words encouraging, and I thought I understood what they meant. Let the highest truths and values guide you. Because I had heroes at the time who seemed to be doing exactly that. This, to me, had the incarnate meaning to mean living a life like that of Martin Luther King Jr. or Rosa Parks or Mahatma Gandhi, a life of high purpose. So I lined up the loftiest ideals I could find and set out to achieve them. The results were rarely admirable, often laughable, and at times grotesque. But always they were unreal, a distortion of my true self, as must be the case when one lives from the outside in, not the inside out. I had simply found a noble way to live my idea of a life that was not my own, a life that was imitating my heroes instead of listening to my heart. Today, some 30 years later, let your life speak means something else to me, a meaning faithful both to the complexity of those words and to the complexity of my own experience. Before you tell your life what you intend to do, listen for what your life intends to do with you. And I think I'm just going to turn this page again. Sorry for referring to my notes. His journey, the writer's journey. He talks a lot about a big portion of his journey. He had been a teacher. He had this very, very strong idea of what the goodness of his life should look like. And then he fell into clinical depression, which he really struggled with. And at one point, he talks a lot about this in the book. And for a long period of time, he saw this as not something that was like other than his life, an obstacle in the way of his life, in the way of him becoming this person who he felt he was supposed to be. And so, I'm going to write this here. This is the chapter called All the Way Down. Midway in my life's journey, my way closed again, this time with a ferocity that felt fatal. I found myself in the dark woods of clinical depression, a total eclipse of light and hope. But after I emerged from my sojourn in the dark and had given myself several years to absorb its meaning, I saw how pivotal and vital that passage had been on my pilgrimage towards self. Though I recommend it to no one, depression compelled me to find the river of life hidden beneath the ice. And he talks about how the depression was part of letting his life speak. He stopped perceiving it as an obstacle to him being who he was, or as an illness. He realized it was another factor of his life speaking, guiding him to doing the work that he was led to do, and for just being who he is. I'm just looking at the time. So I'm going to read a little bit here too. And of course, another part of letting our life speak is letting others' lives speak and listening when others' lives are speaking, even if it's in a way we don't recognize at first. This includes making space for those who we disagree with, and other species who also have a sacred purpose in being here, who also want to let their lives speak. And this includes animals like the elephant, but also animals that we might regard as pests, or we might not have any regard for, or we might think of them as being here for us. They have a sacred path too. In this way, we are all alike. We all are spiritual beings living a physical life, and we all want to give that spirituality voice, and expression in the world, and to let our lives speak. And so the way this really resonates with my own story is, I had, letting my life speak has really changed in different ways. And when I was younger, it was I thought letting my life speak meant letting my opinion speak, letting my personality speak, or letting my goals, I had this very strong, much like the author of this book, really strong idea of who I should be and what I should be doing. At one point, a friend of mine, said to me, "Ellie, you're not a human doing, you're a human being." And so the biggest part of my journey has been in the last few years in really letting go of the concept of being a human doing and allowing myself to just be and be a human being, and let my life and the being of who I am be enough in the world, and holding a space for animals and community, and just like bringing it all into a very, taking away those loftier ideas or those expectations of what my idea, because my idea of what my life should be isn't necessarily rooted in my spiritual, what God plans for me. God is in me, but I also think, our personality, there's a very funny Lily Tomlin line that says, imagine if everyone could be who they wanted to be when they were 5, we'd have a world filled with ballerinas and firemen. And, it's kind of like that. So I feel like part of letting our life speak is being able to let go. For example, if Paul Barton had said, oh, no, I'm here to be a teacher, and that's what I do, and this other path of this other work. He had no history of working with elephants or working with animals. This whole unbelievable thing, this whole project that opened up with the sanctuary would have never happened. So I find it inspiring and a power of example to draw nourishment from. And I'll just close. I'll close with a Wayne Dyer quote. It says, "I've had many lives in this body and many bodies in this life." And I'll also end with another reading from this book and then a poem. You see, I always over-prepare. I have so many notes. So in this, he talks about autumn and how he says autumn is a season of great beauty, which, as we can tell today, is true. He says, but it is also a season of letting go. The days grow shorter, the light is suffused, and summer's abundance decays towards winter's death and hibernation. Faced with this inevitable winter, what does nature do in autumn? It scatters the seeds. It scatters the seeds that bring new growth in the spring, and scatters them with amazing abandon. And I'm going to end with this poem by one of my favorite poets, Denise Levertov. I think I've read it here before, but it's kind of like my mantra. It's called For the New Year. I have a small grain of hope. One small crystal that gleams clear colors out of transparency. I need more. I break off a fragment to send you. Please take this grain of hope, this grain of a grain of hope, so that mine won't shrink. Please share your fragment so that yours will grow. Only so, by division, will hope increase, like a clump of irises, which will cease to flower unless we distribute the clustered roots, unlikely source, clumsy and earth-covered, of grace. Thank you. Thank you for listening and for letting me share. And we'll just do a short meditation.